And this is what, can you imagine?
You sit there. Listen to the nice lady.
I've been making art in Hollywood for over 40 years, but I've never hated anyone like these pompous celebrities. Graham Norton, the charming master who can turn any interview into a viral moment, unexpectedly admitted that there are 6 guests he could not stand over his 40-year career. Some stars brought alcohol onto the stage, drunkenly climbing onto his lap, as if Graham's red chair were merely a stepping stool. Some even groped women, making crude remarks about co-stars' sensitive areas right in front of the camera. So who really shook the throne of Graham's humor, making him so uncomfortable he didn't want to host them? Let's explore the 6 darkest names on Graham Norton's blacklist. 1. Mickey Rourke, addiction and crude comments about women.
I need a partner, so I got canned.
Aww.
Yeah. Then I got a better job working in a lesbian nightclub.
The relationship between Rourke and Norton truly blew up in 2008 when Mickey Rourke appeared on The Graham Norton Show to promote The Wrestler, sitting next to Jessica Biel and Martha Wainwright. Graham recounted in a 2025 interview with The Independent that he witnessed Rourke step out of a car holding a bottle of Jack Daniels, nearly half gone. "I knew right then it was going to be a nightmare," Graham said, because Rourke wasn't just drunk, he turned the red sofa into his personal stage, continuously smoking despite rules interrupting every conversation, and especially making overly familiar remarks toward Jessica Biel, causing her to force a smile while Graham repeatedly had to intervene. "I'm watching this, Jessica." He felt like a teacher in a chaotic classroom having to apologize to Biel on air a few times to calm the atmosphere. The 45-minute interview felt like a century to Graham. Rourke laughed loudly at his own jokes, rambled about boxing and Hollywood, then suddenly went silent, leaving a deadly pause. Graham always emphasized how exhausting it was, forcing him to exert extra effort to maintain control over the atmosphere. Rourke's constant smoking habit also made Graham feel exhausting, almost like he had to monitor every action of the guest. Whenever Graham looked away for a second, Rourke would light another cigarette, making it feel like Graham was teaching a child instead of chatting with an adult actor. This not only made the conversation tense, but also made Graham describe the moment as boring due to his inability to control the pace and energy of the show. Rourke's vague answers forced Norton to ask multiple follow-up questions just to form coherent sentences, prolonging awkward silences during the interview. Rourke's body language clearly showed indifference, leaning back in the chair, little eye contact making the atmosphere cold. The natural warmth and humor of the show were dampened, and Norton had to carry almost the entire conversation, filling in the gaps left by the guests' reluctance. Notably, what could have been a memorable interview turned into one of the most stressful and challenging experiences in Graham Norton's career. It showed that even a talented and witty host can face unforgettable moments, not because of fun, but because of awkwardness and lack of connection between the star and the show. Every second, Norton tried to fill the gaps with smiles and words, but exhaustion became increasingly apparent. A producer later recalled, "It's like talking to a wall." Even Graham, with all his experience and charm, could not salvage the situation. When the episode aired, viewers could clearly see Norton's fatigue. He admitted it was one of the hardest interviews of his career, not due to anger or disrespect, but due to a lack of connection. Mickey Rourke's attitude was truly unbearable, but the next guest will surprise you even more with what he did. 2. Harvey Weinstein, obsessed with himself.
You were Doctor Who, you sat on this couch, you didn't tell us anything.
No.
For years.
Yeah.
Every Christmas you'd come here and go, no, nothing.
It all started in 2015, when Harvey Weinstein, then still a Hollywood mogul with Miramax, and the Weinstein Company pressured the Graham Norton show crew to make a seat for him. Graham recalled in a 2023 interview with RTE Radio 1, he kept sending emails demanding to be invited, even though the schedule was full. We didn't want to, but he insisted, and eventually he won. Weinstein appeared on the red sofa alongside stars like Olivia Colman, David Tennant, and Tom Holland to promote The Imitation Game and other projects. Instead of a lively conversation, it quickly turned into chaos. Weinstein constantly interrupted Norton and the other guests, steering the conversation toward his own achievements instead of engaging in the witty, light-hearted banter the show is known for. His arrogance and controlling attitude diminished the natural humor and charm of the program. All of this forced Graham Norton to manage the situation, remaining professional while trying to keep the show from falling apart. What annoyed Graham most was not excitement or liveliness, but the lack of respect for boundaries. The arrogance of someone in power thinking fame and money could buy everything. He acted as if the show was his own, Graham shared. Meeting Weinstein was proof that even with experience and improvisational skill, a host can face unpredictable challenges when confronting powerful, unmanageable personalities. It reminded audiences that humor, charm, and television charisma can sometimes be tested by unpredictable people. That night left a deep mark on Graham Norton's memory. Years later, when Weinstein's scandal was revealed, he looked back on the episode with new awareness. The moment now appeared as a glimpse into a person whose powerful exterior concealed a troubled reality, and it remained an experience Graham and viewers wouldn't forget. "I knew nothing back then," he said, "but now it was all clear." The episode, once only awkward, now stood as a dark warning of arrogance and cruelty that the world would later witness fully. Following the Me Too movement, Graham did not hesitate to speak out. In a 2022 interview with the Irish Times, he called Weinstein the worst person ever to sit on my sofa, and now he's in jail, so the reward is his. The remark was both sarcastic and filled with disgust. Clips still exist online, but few dare to watch now. For Graham, it served as a reminder that evil does not always reveal itself. It just smiles, steps onto the stage, and tries to dominate the surrounding space. On Graham Norton's red sofa, if Harvey Weinstein was a chaotic storm, there had previously been another long-winded rain. Robert De Niro, whom Graham jokingly called a prime candidate for most difficult guest. But now Weinstein not only took the throne, but elevated discomfort to a classic level. 3. Robert De Niro, the most boring and hard-to-interview guest. Robert De Niro is a completely different case. He is praised as one of the most talented and respected actors in Hollywood, but his difficulty in interviews is equally notorious. Whenever Graham mentioned De Niro backstage, he would sigh as if recalling a terrible date full of expectations but ending in awkward silence. For Graham, De Niro was not an enemy, but a prime example of a guest who forced him to struggle to keep the show's pace. A great actor on screen, but in real life, not a conversation king. When appearing on the Graham Norton show, De Niro displayed a reserved demeanor, very different from Wahlberg's energetic presence. From the moment he sat on the red sofa, it was clear maintaining conversational flow would be a challenge. Trouble began with several of De Niro's visits, most notably in 2018, when he sat with the Ocean's 8 cast, Helena Bonham Carter, Anne Hathaway, Rihanna, and Mindy Kaling. Graham recounted in a Cheltenham Literature Festival interview, "I felt like a bus driver at a bachelor party. For 45 minutes, everyone talked over each other, laughing loudly, but the audience had no idea what on earth they were watching. Norton quickly realized that De Niro gave brief, cautious, and reserved answers. Sometimes just a nod, a slight smile, or carefully chosen words. The usually fast, lively rhythm of the show suddenly became more difficult. The host had to patiently draw out conversation with witty or gentle questions, yet De Niro maintained calm, revealing only fleeting thoughts. What did Graham dislike about De Niro? First, the deadly silence combined with endless rambling, like a 2-hour art film without a climax. In a Sunday Express article in September 2024, Graham bluntly called De Niro boring, placing him among guests so silent that the show lost its vitality. De Niro is not a conversation king, he said with a half smile. The host always valued natural humor and lively interaction, so feeling robbed of leading the conversation by a film legend lost in his own world is understandable. De Niro was not arrogant or rude, just lacking energy, which disappointed Graham, especially compared to guests like Bruce Springsteen or Julia Roberts, who turned the sofa into a riotous party. The contrast between De Niro's calm, cautious demeanor and the show's usual energetic style was so striking that Norton joked, "It's hard, Robert." This moment shows that even a seasoned host faces challenges adapting to reserved guests. It emphasizes that in entertainment, personality differences between host and guest can create moments that are both awkward and fascinating. Though the energy in the room was restrained, the interview offered viewers a valuable glimpse of De Niro's calm and thoughtful presence. Small moments, a gentle nod, a subtle smile, left lasting impressions, making the episode a memorable part of the show's history. Sometimes the hardest-to-reach guests create the deepest experiences. But it didn't stop there. If Robert De Niro left fans feeling dull, the next guest made Norton loathe with bitterness. 4. Mark Wahlberg, drunk and out-of-control moments.
And this is what, can you imagine?
You sit there. Listen to the nice lady.
The 2013 episode promised a perfect night. Michael Fassbender, sharp and professional, Sarah Silverman, quick-witted and ready to spark, and Mark Wahlberg, an A-list star known for boldness and exuberance. But the moment Wahlberg stepped on stage, everything changed. His confident posture intensified, his speech slightly slurred, and initial jokes became over the top. At first, the audience laughed, thinking he was just excited, but the lively energy quickly turned into restlessness and discomfort. Off-track jokes became awkward, making the studio atmosphere tense. Then, the most memorable moment happened without warning. Wahlberg stood up slightly, unsteady, climbed onto Graham Norton's lap, draped an arm around the host's shoulder, and laughed as if hanging out with close friends. Nervous laughter echoed in the studio while Graham remained calm, smiling, and gently trying to restore order, though his eyes betrayed tension. Norton later admitted he was just losing it. I mean, really losing it. Home viewers couldn't believe their eyes. Some saw it as an unpredictable comedic accident, while others felt secondhand embarrassment. This moment highlighted that even the most charming stars can create surprises that Graham Norton, despite his experience, cannot anticipate. Wahlberg later admitted he had a few drinks before the show and was just enjoying himself too much. But that night left an unforgettable mark in the show's history. It served as a reminder that live TV is not always just fun. Sometimes it crosses boundaries, becoming both awkward and tense. 3 years later, in 2017, Wahlberg returned to promote Transformers: The Last Knight, sitting next to Tom Holland and Anthony Hopkins. This time he was sober, but still could not resist teaching the young Spider-Man a lesson, with a witty but slightly sharp remark. "You've never been to jail, huh?" Everyone understood it as a reference to Wahlberg's criminal past in 1988, a dark mark he often referenced to appear cool. Graham Norton froze for a moment at the awkward remark, then quickly recovered, guiding the conversation with a half smile, turning the moment into subtle satire. The audience giggled. Wahlberg blushed, embarrassed but amusing. Graham did not hate him, but clearly disliked this show-off approach, especially as it created a slightly forced atmosphere. With just a few words, the moment became both funny and clever, showcasing the host's skill in steering conversation. What do you think about Mark Wahlberg's clumsy antics? Share your thoughts. But that's nothing compared to the discomfort of the next guest. 5. Kevin Costner, overly reserved and serious. Kevin Costner is the next case, and his appearance did not explode as expected. Graham recalled that from the first moment, Costner exuded indifference, as if he'd rather be riding a horse on the Yellowstone plains than participating in a lively chat. He answered briefly, expression cold, while other guests, especially Gervais with his familiar sarcasm, tried to pull him into conversation. His serious, reserved attitude contrasted sharply with the show's lively energy, continuous jokes, and playful banter that define Norton's style. Costner was not rude or impolite, but his near-cold composure made the atmosphere awkward. Graham admitted he felt frustrated having to carry the show alone, as Costner's answers were short, cautious, and didn't fully engage in conversation. Throughout the interview, Costner responded to Norton's humorous stories, superficially lacking the natural playfulness viewers expected. Dialogues that should have been rhythmically funny became awkward, leaving more stiff moments than enjoyable ones. Clearly, although a charismatic on-screen actor, Costner did not fully fit the talk show's tone. Norton admitted, "Some people don't get this show. It's designed to be silly, not a press conference." The difference in pace was so obvious that every Norton joke paused before Costner answered. When others shared funny anecdotes, he listened as if watching a documentary. Audiences noticed the pauses, which were respectful but lacked rapport. He admitted some guests simply don't fit this format, and that's completely normal, but it can make an episode drag and feel less charming. Costner's reserve was frustrating, but the overly serious attitude of the next guest annoyed Norton even more. So, who was that final hated guest? Let's see who it was. 6. Daryl Hannah, the difficult, dull guest. One of the most difficult guests Norton has ever hosted is Daryl Hannah. Unlike other difficult stars who might cause chaos or act arrogantly, Hannah's challenge was entirely different. She simply refused to participate, turning the interview into one of the most painful experiences in Norton's career. Her answers were confined to curt phrases interspersed with long, uncomfortable silences, making the conversation almost impossible to continue. In later recollections, Norton admitted he often felt as though Hannah had been dragged onto the show against her will. Unlike other reserved guests who, though cautious, still contributed to the conversation, Hannah remained completely distant, as if appearing held no appeal whatsoever. Her reluctance forced Norton to struggle to manage the interview, and even his usual humorous tricks and clever diversions proved useless. An interview that should have been lively and engaging became a tense, awkward challenge, leaving both host and audience in a state of frustration. Norton was extremely unsettled by Hannah's quiet energy. He described her as a very silent guest, contributing little to the liveliness that is the trademark of the show. In the rare moments she did respond, Graham tried every method to elicit engagement, humor, teasing, empathy, even self-deprecation. However, none of it worked. The prolonged silence made Graham feel as if he were dragging the conversation along with a rope, and the audience could sense the tension. Heavy gaps appeared between Hannah's brief answers, making the interview unlike any other guest experience. Graham admitted that this was one of the most difficult experiences on the red sofa, not because of anger or frustration, but because of a lack of connection. Hannah was neither rude nor oppositional. She simply did not want to participate and did not feel comfortable in the humorous, light-hearted environment of Graham's show. This left Graham feeling powerless, even as he maintained a professional smile and tried to guide the program. Over 18 years on the legendary red sofa, Graham Norton has faced all kinds of guests, from dazzling stars to unmanageable legends. With wit and charm few can match, he not only led conversations, but created his own brand. Let us step back in time to explore the real person behind Graham and the reasons he rose to become an icon of British television. Graham William Walker was born on April 4, 1963 in Clondalkin, a quiet suburb of Dublin, Ireland. He grew up in the town of Bandon, County Cork, with his father Billy Walker, a Guinness sales representative, and his mother Rhoda, a dedicated teacher. From an early age, Graham showed quick wit humor and a natural curiosity, qualities that would later become his signature on British television. He attended Bandon Grammar School, where his storytelling talent and performance skills began to flourish. Although occasionally shy, Graham always found joy in making others laugh and felt confident performing in front of an audience. After finishing school, he continued studying English and French at Cork University, but his heart leaned toward the stage rather than books. His passion for performance led him to leave before completing his degree, boldly moving to London to pursue his dreams. Life in London was far from easy. Graham took various odd jobs to cover living expenses while struggling financially during his time at the Central School of Speech and Drama. It was during this challenging period that he adopted the stage name Graham Norton, marking a turning point in his career. Despite obstacles, persistence, personal charisma, and humor opened doors to the entertainment world in the 1980s. However, the real breakthrough came in the early 1990s, when he began performing stand-up comedy, quickly gaining recognition for his sharp and captivating style. He first tasted television success in 1996, appearing as a guest host on The Jack Doherty Show on Channel 5. His quick wit humor and magnetic personality drew attention from both producers and audiences, paving the way for his own show shortly thereafter. In 1998, Graham Norton launched on Channel 4 and quickly became a phenomenon. The show featured a bold, quirky, and unabashedly humorous style with celebrity interviews, eccentric segments, and direct audience interaction. This was where Norton's talent shone, putting guests at ease and keeping viewers glued to the screen. The blend of wit, natural charisma, and the ability to create unexpected moments earned him multiple BAFTA awards and made him beloved by both celebrities and audiences. Following the success of Graham Norton, he went on to host V. Graham Norton, solidifying his reputation as an unpredictable yet always engaging television host. His quick thinking and humorous improvisation turned awkward moments into gold, while his genuine care for guests often led even major stars to open up unexpectedly. In 2007, BBC recognized his talent and offered him the chance to transform his career with The Graham Norton Show. Premiering on BBC Two before moving to BBC One, the show quickly became a global success. Unlike traditional talk shows, Norton's format brought multiple guests together on one sofa, encouraging natural, humorous conversation. The relaxed atmosphere combined with Norton's continuous hosting created countless viral moments and unforgettable interactions with celebrities. Today, Graham Norton remains a central figure in television, continuing to bring joy to audiences with sharp wit, quick humor and captivating presence. He hosts The Graham Norton Show, one of the most acclaimed talk shows worldwide, combining celebrity interviews with fun games and lively audience interaction, making the iconic red sofa a hub of memorable moments. The show is praised for its unique blend of boldness, warmth, and spontaneity, attracting top-tier actors, musicians, and comedians from around the world. Beyond his flagship program, Norton has expanded into other projects, including documentary narration, hosting special events, and appearing as a guest on various television programs. He is also active in radio hosting shows that highlight his love of music and compelling stories. In recent years, Norton has embraced digital media, maintaining a strong presence on social platforms, where he connects with fans and shares personal insights. Off-camera, he continues to advocate for LGBTQ+ visibility, frequently speaking on representation and equality issues. Balancing work with personal interests. Norton's current life reflects both enduring passion for entertainment and a commitment to fostering connection, laughter, and inclusivity across all his projects. In his personal life, he has found happiness with Jonathan "Jono" McLeod, a Scottish filmmaker. They met and began dating many years ago, forming a stable and enduring partnership. Low-key and private, they maintain a steadfast love in stark contrast to the glamorous, volatile worlds of Hollywood that Graham frequently encounters professionally. Jonathan McLeod is not only his partner, but also a trusted companion supporting Graham behind the scenes in his hosting career. Their bond is admired by fans for its simplicity and discretion. Graham often emphasizes that this relationship provides necessary balance, helping him avoid work pressures and the traps of fame while maintaining a sense of normalcy in daily life. Although famous for his humor and charm on screen, Graham is very private about his personal life. He rarely shares details of his marriage or relationship with Jono in shows or interviews, keeping intimate moments separate from the spotlight. This allows him to maintain a personal space shared only between the two of them. A notable aspect of Graham's private life is that he does not have children. In multiple interviews, he has openly stated that this is a personal choice, emphasizing that he is unsure he could be a good father. This also allows him to focus entirely on his career and his relationship with Jono without the distractions of traditional family responsibilities. Over more than 2 decades of hosting, Graham Norton has encountered all types of guests, from charming, humorous stars to those who exhausted and challenged him. Among the most difficult were Mark Wahlberg with unpredictable chaos, Robert De Niro with drawn-out silence, Mickey Rourke drunk and overbearing, Kevin Costner icy and uncooperative, Daryl Hannah refusing participation and creating awkwardness, and Harvey Weinstein with a powerful, arrogant attitude. These guests not only tested Graham's improvisational skills, but also demonstrated that live television, no matter how professional, cannot control everything. So, which moment annoyed you the most? Wahlberg's chaos, De Niro's silence, or Weinstein's arrogance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for following this article, and don't forget to subscribe to catch more intriguing stories from Hollywood.